let's talk some MMA with our expert here in studio. He is the host of Ringside Report Radio Wednesdays and Fridays right here on TSN 690. You can follow him on twitter.com/DaveSimonMMA. And, of course, the website is ringsidereport.net. It's Dave Simon.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Dave.
Yeah.
This was a very big weekend. Dave Simon was live at a UFC event in Toronto, and apparently it was one for the ages.
It was a classic fight between Jon Jones and Alexander Gustaffson last night. Just an unbelievable performance from both Jones and Gustaffson. Jones has looked unstoppable, looked more than human, destroying every opponent put in front of him in the UFC. Everyone expected Gustaffson to just be another victim for Jon Jones,
who was coming off an injury, right?
Gustaffson, no, he wasn't coming off an injury. He was supposed to fight in April in Sweden.
Right, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah, it wasn't really an injury. It was a cut that he suffered a few days before the fight, and it was the Swedish MMA Federation that didn't allow him to fight, even though he probably should have fought Gegard Mousasi back in April, but that kind of ruined the card back in April in Sweden. But Gustaffson didn't fight. He hadn't fought since December of 2012 with a decision victory over Shogun, and he really showed a lot of improvements in his game last night, giving a fight to Jon Jones that no one expected him to give. He went all 5 rounds. Jon Jones taking it via unanimous decision, 49-46 on one judge's scorecard, 48-47, which is 3 rounds to 2 on the 2 other judges' scorecards. A lot of people on Twitter last night scored it for Alexander Gustaffson. I scored it for Jon Jones. Actually, 49-46. I thought he won rounds 1, 3, 4, and 5, but very close rounds. I thought 4 and 5 more clearly for Jon Jones. 1, 2, 3, very close. Could have gone either way. I gave Gustaffson the second. I gave the rest for Jones, but just an unbelievable fight. Jon Jones had a cut over his eye that was just nasty, and the doctors actually wanted to stop the fight.
Wow.
After the 4th round, but Jones and the referee, Big John McCarthy, who's one of the best in the business, they begged the doctor to let the fight go on, and it did. And this coming off a 4th round where Jones had almost finished Alexander Gustaffson, hitting him with a spinning back elbow and landing a flurry of shots, but running out of time where it looked like he had Gustaffson on Dream Street. Really the first time where he really looked like he was about to finish Alexander Gustaffson. Jones was not able to take down Gustaffson last night, which was another big story to the fight. Everyone expected Jones to completely out-wrestle Alexander, but it was actually Gustafson getting the first takedown of the night. He took Jon Jones down early in the fight. Jones was able to get a takedown late in the final round to tie it at 1 takedown apiece, but that was a big story, is the takedown defense and the wrestling ability, the offensive wrestling as well, from Alexander Gustaffson, who put on an unbelievable performance. Both guys leaving it all in the octagon. Jon Jones had to be stretchered away, taken to hospital. Both guys missing the post-fight press conference last night, going to the hospital after a 25-minute war. One of the best fights you will ever see.
Now, Dave, obviously you mentioned a very big storyline there, which was that the fight was almost stopped. So the question is, was it controversial in your eyes? Is it something that people are going to talk about? Will Gustafson's camp kind of, bitch and moan about it? And also the other aspect of it is, had he ended up winning because of that, would it have been an automatic rematch?
Yeah, I think without a doubt, if you win by TKO due to a cut, especially after that 4th round where it looked like he was maybe going to get finished in the 5th, I think it definitely would have been an automatic rematch, but I don't think it's controversial in any kind of way. People are already talking about an automatic rematch just because the fight was so close, and there are not that many challenges out there for Jon Jones. He really has run through the light heavyweight division. People looking at Glover Teixeira as the next guy, but he may have to take a back seat and wait his turn. As Gustafson, after that performance last night, a brilliant performance, he did lose, but Dana White and a lot of people were talking about the rematch right away.
And would this be one of the more hyped ones in recent years for a Jones fight? Obviously, he's a guy who's always favored going in.
Yeah, I think it would be huge. It would be a huge fight because the fight that we saw last night, I don't think had that much luster. I don't think a lot of people were as excited about it as other fights that Jones has had. Gustafson maybe doesn't have the big name that, even Chael Sonnen has, who Jones beat in April in his last fight. So I think definitely, based on the performance last night, there's going to be a lot of interest in the rematch. It's something that people want to see. Like Chris Weidman and Anderson Silva. People were excited about that fight, but they weren't overly excited. It wasn't, Anderson Silva, Chael Sonnen. There's that Chael Sonnen again. He's a big draw. But, Weidman Silva the first time around, people weren't that hyped. But because of the performance that Weidman put on, because he knocked out Anderson Silva, now that fight December 28th is one of the most anticipated rematches in the history of the UFC, and I think it's going to be the same thing because of the performance that Gustaffson had. He didn't beat Jon Jones, but he came closer to beating Jon Jones than anyone ever has, and he gave a fight to Jon Jones like no one ever has before.
So what is Dana White thinking right now? Is he absolutely ecstatic that Jon Jones won the face of the UFC and he can continue to promote him as unbeatable and the guy that you want to watch, the big draw? And B, is he also thinking, wow, finally somebody who can give him a match? So that's got to be what he's thinking, right?
Yes and yes. I would say 100%, right?
So so if you had to strategize right now and guess as to what the plan is, are you thinking when would this take place? Based obviously on the injuries too.
I'm not sure if they're going to do the immediate rematch. I'm not sure if that's going to be the fight that'll take place. It's not really common in a fight where it seems like Jones got a decisive victory. It's not that common for the challenger to get an immediate rematch when he lost. It wasn't like...
But you're telling me there's nobody for him to fight.
Well, there's Glover Teixeira. He's out there. Daniel Cormier has talked about dropping to light heavyweight, and he's going to fight Roy Nelson his next fight in October, and then there's a possibility of him dropping down to light heavyweight. I think there are other challenges out there for Jones, but the UFC is going to have to decide, well, what do they want to do right now? Do they want to put Glover Teixeira in there, as I think he is next in line, or are they going to give Gustafson another shot? And I'm not really sure. I think that either fight would be interesting. I wouldn't mind seeing Gustafson and Jones fight again, though, because that fight last night was incredible. And I think Gustafson, based on that performance, maybe even deserves another shot. It's a tough call right now for the UFC. Do they give Jones a fresh challenge, or because Gustafson was so good, do you want to give him another shot? Do you really want to put your champion through that? You go through one grueling fight, you manage to walk out victorious. Do you really want to have to put Jon Jones through it again? Is that something Jones wants to do? Right now, both guys are going to recuperate. They're going to recover, and we'll see when they can get back in there. Jones, we don't know, the extent of his injuries last night. He came out of it very banged up. So did Gustafson. I don't see this fight taking place. If they do the immediate rematch, it's not going to happen in 2013. I'd say the earliest they could do it would be Super Bowl weekend in February 2014.
Good call. I like that. Dave Simon here from Ringside Report Radio. Dave, you were in Toronto for the event. I assume ringsidereport.net's got some stuff up?
Yeah, we haven't been able to do that yet. I don't know. I mean, the support staff isn't picking up the slack when I'm out in Toronto. You know what I mean? So nothing quite yet. We have last night's episode of Wrestling Uncensored up at ringsidereport.net. We have the preview for the fights that are up there right now. We're going to recap everything on Wednesday, the whole event, the whole affair.
11 o'clock?
11 o'clock? Oh, no. We're on...
Could be midnight?
Yeah, we're on after Canadians this Wednesday night.
So midnight.
So
all right.
We'll be on at midnight.
All right, so the first show of Thursday, essentially, late night on Wednesday, Ringside Report Radio. Dave Simon MMA on Twitter, or, of course, you can go to ringsidereport.net. They'll put something up eventually on this UFC event.
Yeah. Well, Kevin's got to get it together. Kevin and Johnny North, I mean, they're dropping the ball here,